with Sabcs. I know I'm not the first to welcome you to Central Hotel and to thank you for taking time out of your schedules and events and other commitments to be here with us tonight. I don't think you're disappointed. We have a great program. Just going through some before to chair. This is executive group. Passing the baton tonight to our incoming chair as well as welcoming our executive group members. So let me just, oh, sorry. There we go. Quick agenda you have on the table. I'm not going to spend any time, but we'll go do a quick year in review. You also have a quick flyer on your table about some of the things that we've done this year. Acknowledging our 2025 executive group, welcoming our 2026 executive group. We're going to spend a little bit of time on some role, see the Alliance, Shirley Mertz, who we lost this year. And then we're going to move into a panel discussion. Oh, holy cow, wasn't expecting that. Okay. Moving into a panel discussion tonight that was planned and executed by patient members of the Alliance. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who maybe have not been in the past, we always begin our meetings with an acknowledgement of values. And these are outlined in our strategic plan, but this illustration is a reminder of what underlies our culture, our actions, and what we do within the Alliance, and that the patient voice, the patient concerns are always at the center of what we do. And regrettably, we also often start our Alliance meetings remembering those members who we lost in the last year. Maren Kaufman, Shirley Mertz, and Julia Levine. These were powerful women, amazing advocates, and tonight we stand on their shoulders, as with many others we've lost in past years. We all, I'm sure, have stories and memories of these three women and others we've lost in past years, and maybe others that you know that are not recognized by the Alliance necessarily. I'd like to just take a moment for us to remember their work, their legacy, their lives, and maybe bring them into the room with us tonight so that we can continue to feel their energy and be inspired by their work and their lives. Thank you. So as I said, we're going to spend a little bit of time on 2025 in review. You should see a flyer on your table. It kind of outlines exactly what I'm going to show you on the screen, but it allows you to kind of look at it a little bit more closely, spend a little bit more time on it if you want to, take it home if you want to. So these are highlights of what we've achieved in the last year as an Alliance. Engaging our community, we've grown as an Alliance to now 95 members. And it's important over 70 of our members are engaged in Alliance activities, either through a working group or a committee or serving on the executive group. And that's really meaningful because it means that that our Alliance is engaged. We're expanding our reach. We have given out about $25,000 this year in travel grants to patients living with MBC who are able to travel to conferences like SABCS, ESMO, ASCO, or other smaller regional Mbca-focused meetings. And this is an important piece of what the Alliance does. We've had 19 blog posts on our website this year. We're exchanging knowledge through our community in webinars. We've hosted 4 webinars on topics from financial toxicity to clinical trial navigation. And we've engaged in key projects, including This Is My Mbc, which we'll highlight in just a minute. We've updated the Insider's Guide to Metastatic Breast Cancer, and we've launched the free Dandelion Kit for newly diagnosed breast cancer patients. And we're advancing research. Our breast cancer brain metastasis working group has hosted 9 speaker series, and we have engaged as an alliance with 2 strategic collaborations with the ABC Global Alliance and with Teresa's Foundation and the MBC Discovery and Accelerating Research Together, or DART program this year. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and click on, I need to do this over here, the QR code, and you'll be able to see some of the stories that have been logged into our This Is My Mbc series. Last year, or in 2024, in the executive group retreat, an MBC awareness campaign was identified as a priority area for the Alliance to take on. But what it should look like was not really defined. This Is My Mbc, was designed and executed through a committee of, again, our patient members living with MBC. And I encourage you to, if you haven't already, go ahead and add your story. It's designed to be a myth buster, so about MBC and living with MBC. So I encourage you to look at that and maybe add your own personal story to that. This time last year, we were in this room, and I was talking about the policy framework that we were launching. And we formed a steering committee. The steering committee worked hard this year. And of course, we had some real priorities in the policy landscape this year with everything that's happening on the federal level. We just received word a couple of days ago that this is live on our website. You can go to mbcalliance.org/policy action, and you can see what some of our members are doing in the policy realm. You can click to get engaged. Whatever it is that you're interested in, there are policy resources there for anyone who's interested. So we're really excited to see this launch off. And are there any members who are on the steering committee for the policy working group in the room tonight? Could you stand so we can acknowledge you? It was a complicated undertaking, and I appreciate everybody's participation. So please remember to check that out. Normally at our in-person member meetings, we do provide somewhat of an update on our working groups. Because since the last meeting in ASCO, we switched our format a little bit because we wanted our patient members to design the meeting and to provide ample time for that program to happen. And so we're not going to go into details about our project updates, but again, you can scan the QR code there, go to our projects page, and read about what we're doing. If you're fairly new to the Alliance and you are interested in where you might be able to get involved, things that you're interested in, or you just want to know more about what we're doing, please go to the projects page on our website to learn more about that. Okay, so it's that time of year, December, SABCS. I want to begin by thanking our 2025 executive group. They're pictured here on the screen. I'm not going to read them out, but if you are in the room tonight, could you please stand? The Alliance's executive group serves as an advisory board. They bring their knowledge, expertise, their experience, and their resources, and they provide feedback and guidance on Alliance initiatives, our policies, our membership, and finances. And I want to thank the 2025 executive group personally for being a mentor to me in this year as chair, for your friendship and your guidance to me personally. And I want to thank you all for accepting me and allowing me the privilege to serve as your chair this year. Those that are highlighted or outlined in blue are our members who are going to be transitioning off this year. Each member serves a 2-year term. They're elected by, as you probably know by now because you probably voted, they're elected by our membership for a 2-year term. And every year we hold elections to replace those who are transitioning off. I want to personally thank Victoria, Stacy, Ginny, Giso, Thelma, Ricky, working with you in the last 2 years, and for your service to the Alliance and for all that you brought to the Alliance during your term. And I certainly hope that you'll continue to stay engaged as we move forward. So again, I want to thank those who are transitioning off this year. Can we please, again, have another round of applause? So now we get to announce the new members coming on. So as I said, every member serves a 2-year term. With the exception of our industry representatives, all members are voted in by our membership. All of our members bring to the Alliance an enormous expertise and background, and being nominated by a member of the Alliance to serve on the executive group is an honor in and of itself. And we appreciate all the nominations that we received, and we appreciate the voting. We had an enormous participation from our membership in voting, and that allows us to ensure that our membership speaks and informs the composition of our executive group. So I'm really happy to share with you the results for the new chair, incoming vice chair, 2 individual members, 3 nonprofit members, and our new industry member who will be joining the executive group. Please join me in welcoming Josh Newby from Teresa's Foundation as our 2026 vice chair. Josh and Stephanie are going to be a formidable team. Just warning you now. Please join me in welcoming Melanie Sisk and Bobby Albany as our 2 individual members at large. And please join me in welcoming our 3 nonprofit members to the executive board: Sisters Network, represented by Colleen Allen; Living Beyond Breast Cancer, represented by Caroline Kofke; and Force, represented by Maddie Williamson. And last but not least, our new industry representative will be from Novartis this year, represented by Geraldine Carroll. As I mentioned, for the sake of clarity, our industry members are not voted in by the membership. To be a member of the executive group, an industry member must be a sponsor at the premier level, and it's a rotating term. And they are invited by the executive director to join the alliance join the executive group for 2 years, and they're rotated off in sequence in terms of, when was the last time they served, essentially. So just to give a little clarity to that, because I'm sure you realize that you did not vote for Geraldine or for Novartis. So just giving you a little bit of background on that. So again, welcome the new executive group. It's going to be an amazing group of individuals, and I will stay on as the past chair, and I look forward to seeing how you all lead us into the next year. So again, thank you to the 25, and thank you to the 26. So I mentioned that we were going to honor Shirley Mertz tonight. She passed away a few months ago, and many of us here were mentored by Shirley. Shirley was a pioneer and really ahead of her time in terms of advocating for people living with MBC. She believed in the power of education, of patient empowerment and knowledge, and she believed that the patient voice should be involved in research. Shirley believed in research. Shirley knew that research was going to be the thing that changed the landscape for people living with MBC. But she knew that patients needed to be involved at the very beginning, and she played a tremendous role in that way. The Alliance is forever indebted to Shirley for her leadership, her wisdom, her vision, her compassion, just her willingness to give. And at this time, I'd like to share a short video that her son Aaron prepared for the ABC Global Alliance, and which was played at the ABC 8 conference in Lisbon earlier this year. Thank you.
A young woman from the American Midwest, the daughter of an immigrant father from Croatia who had her whole life ahead of her, long before the word cancer ever entered it. And I can't help but smile at that unmistakably late 1960s style, the perfect pixie haircut and a scarf so bold it could stop traffic. She was a gifted teacher and later high school principal who shaped generations of students, including me, since I attended the very school she led. She built her life on helping others reach their potential. And when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she brought that same determination to helping other patients, insisting they deserved the best care, the best doctors, second and third opinions, and the courage to advocate for themselves. That fierce belief kept her alive for 22 years after her diagnosis with metastatic breast cancer. As I've been cleaning out her house these past months, I stumbled on this photograph, one I never knew existed. She took it in 1991 on the eve of her double mastectomy to preserve the memory of her womanhood. She would live 3 more decades, ultimately dying from breast cancer cells that lingered long after her breasts were gone. That paradox haunted her and fueled her. She used her voice to demand that the world see metastatic breast cancer clearly, not as an afterthought, but as a central truth of the breast cancer story. In Washington, she fought to create a national day of awareness for metastatic breast cancer. A few years later, she stood in front of the White House as she was honored as a champion of change. She traveled the world to speak for patients who could not. Her leadership of the Metastatic Breast Cancer Network, a founder of the Mbca Alliance, and roles here at earlier ABC conferences helped change how we talk about the disease and how we care for those living with it. She had 2 missions that kept her going: to see me earn my PhD, and 10 years later to see me turn 40. Those milestones mattered to her because they marked life continuing in the face of illness. Her advocacy kept her alive for 22 years with metastatic breast cancer. Then metastatic breast cancer took her away from us. I would be remiss if I don't mention that her husband, my father, Edward Mertz, died 10 hours later. They left together. This photo, the young woman full of light and promise, is how I want you to remember her, because every patient you care for was once someone like her, with dreams, laughter, and a life before cancer. My mother's name was Shirley Mertz. She was the world to me. Thank you for dedicating this conference to her and for continuing the work she began, turning loss into purpose and purpose into hope.
So in 2024, the Alliance started a patient advocate conference scholarship program that provided funds for members living with MBC to travel to conferences. This year, we are changing the name of that to that scholarship, to the Shirley Mertz Memorial Travel Grant Program. We wanted to honor Shirley in a very special way, and it's so hard to find some way to thank Shirley for all that she did. But we know that this program would have meant so much to her, and I know up above she's smiling. She's with us here today, and I know that she's grateful that we created this program or renamed this program for her, and it will forever be memorialized by her legacy of training advocates and empowering the patient voice. So at this time, I would like to thank all of you for allowing me to serve as your chair of the executive group. It's my time to step down. I'm still here. I will still be involved. And I just want to say that I've been involved with the Alliance since 2016, actively engaged in various committees and working groups. I've been on the executive group for about 5 years. And my time as the vice chair and chair were the most memorable to me. And I learned so much from the patients, from the partners that we worked with. And I appreciate the mentorship and the friendship from all of you. At this time, I would like to welcome to the stage our incoming chair of the executive group, someone who needs no introduction to this group, Ms. Stephanie Walker.
Forgot to bring my wine. It is my honor to introduce our panelists tonight for our program. Today's topic is Living Fully with MBC, a candid discussion about quality of life. This program was planned by a team of MBC members, and I know you're going to love this program. You'll learn a lot. I'm going to introduce the panelists, and so you guys can make your way up here. I'm going to read a little bit bio from them. Our first panelist is Melinda Viola Marr. Melinda lives in New Hampshire with her wife, Allison, and their 4 children. She is the director of the Healing Circles at Project Life, and she's the organizational lead for the Project Outreach. That's Project Life's initiative to address the needs of the LGBTQ+ community living with MBC. Next, we have Linda Holden. Linda is a San Francisco Bay Area native. She's passionate advocate to the metastatic and the male breast cancer community. She's an individual member of the Alliance. Her husband, Bob, was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer de novo in 2003. Linda was Bob's caregiver for the 17 years that he lived until he passed away in 2020. Sheila Pettiford. She was first diagnosed early stage breast cancer in 2004 and with MBC in 2014. She's a former teacher and a licensed health agent. Sheila now dedicates her time to the patient advocacy and is an individual member of the Alliance. Next is Dr. Nancy Levitan Horvu. My bad. Nancy is a retired social worker practitioner and a professor in Massachusetts. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2002 and then MBC in 2012. She became a breast cancer advocate and is an individual member of the Alliance as well. We have two members that are not present. The first one is Kirby Lewis. William Kirby Lewis is a 65-year-old man who's from West Virginia. Go West Virginia. Originally diagnosed with stage 2 in 2012, and then almost 4 years later with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Now over the 9-year mark, Kirby is an outlier. He continues to work as an advocate on a local, state, and national level, including serving as an ambassador to the Male Breast Cancer Global Alliance. Our other panelist is Jill Terabasi. Jill is a physician, a researcher, and an advocate who is living with MBC. She was diagnosed de novo during her second pregnancy at the age of 36. She now works part-time while raising her 2 young sons with her husband outside of Buffalo, New York, and is an individual member of the Alliance. Last but not least, our moderator, Amy Russell Parliament. Amy serves as the Director of Diagnostic Imaging for a health system in upstate New York. After an early stage breast cancer diagnosis in 2014, Amy was diagnosed with metastatic lobular invasive carcinoma 5 years later. Amy is an individual member of the Alliance and is married to her sweetheart, Chris, and they have 3 fur babies. So Amy, there you go. Have at it. Thank you.
Hello, we want to welcome you to our discussion tonight, and we hope at the end of this that you'll all join us and be interactive. So I want to just start by telling you how we came up with what we're going to discuss tonight. We did a survey for our members, for everybody, for all of our stakeholders. We would like the nonprofits, we want pharma, and we want our patients to take this survey because we want to know what quality of life means for each person, but we also want to educate everybody on what quality of life means to those of us living with MBC. And as you can see, we have a very diverse panel, and the 2 people that aren't here, we're trying to represent all the pockets of living with metastatic breast cancer. But before we start, I just want to give you a couple of updates on what we have gotten so far from our survey results. I think we're going to post a link on the thing, and if you want to take the survey, we encourage you, if you have not taken the survey, to take the survey. We'll have the link at the end, but please take the survey because we want to know like everybody's opinion. But what we've gotten so far are patients aren't sure what resources are available at diagnosis. They're not sure how to connect within the community. And the lack of collaboration is missing between all of the nonprofits. So you will hear each of us share stories about what resources we've used and like things that have helped us with the process. We have not gotten a ton of input from our pharmaceutical partners, and we look forward to your feedback. So we encourage you, if you have not taken the survey, to take the survey. So to start, since we're speaking about quality of life, we're going to put this Slido up, and if you want to participate in one word, I'm going to ask the panelists to share one word of what quality of life means to them. And if you could do the Slido and put your word so we can share the results of the room. Melinda, I'll start with you. And if you can't do it in one word, and it's got to be a couple, but what is quality of life for you? Hey, turn your mic on. Continuing to learn. Continuing to learn. Okay. Linda?
Well, I was looking at it in terms, not from me, as from a caregiver for Bob. And I felt like it changed daily, the quality of life. One day he'd be in bed, the next day he'd be like, let's go do this, so just the changes, I guess.
Well, for me, it's not, thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm a little ahead of you,
Okay, go ahead.
but for me, I can't get it to you in just one word. It's peace, but it's peace and the uncertainty of this disease.
Okay. And Nancy?
So when I think of quality of life, I think of physical, social, and emotional well-being.
Okay. And from the audience, it looks like living is like the biggest thing. Freedom, trying to live a normal life, peace, family. But what is, and freedom, absolutely. But like living a normal life, what is normal? Because normal is different for all of us. So it's like trying to navigate the new normals. So I want to go next before we get back into the topic of doing a deep dive about quality. Could y'all share with me, and Nancy, I'll start with you. Could you share me a high and a low of your Mbca experience?
Sure. So I'm here sort of representing somebody who's older who has Mbca, and I just turned 70 last week. Oh,
Nancy, where's your mom?
my
Mhm.
mic. Is there a way to
Hold it.
Hold the mic.
hold the mic?
Mhm.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
Oh. Here, who's mine? He's working it out.
Here we go.
Okay, that's better. Great. I have my vocal cords repaired, so I want everybody to hear my good voice. So I'm here representing sort of an older woman who has Mbca, who's been living with Mbca for quite a while, and for actually 23 years. And there have been some real highs and lows. I actually do use a lot of gallows humor to get me through this. And so I used to tell my oncologist that he made me feel like I was on the death train, and what stop were we at now? And so some of the lows have been that every time I had a scan, I would feel like I had come to a riverbank, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to cross the river and go on with my life until I got the scan report back. You know, I'm trucking along and going on my merry way, and could I continue? I never knew. And scans have been a real low for me. And so, and then I think we'd all agree that for anyone who has Mbca, a progression is a terrible low. So that's another one of them. Found that I had breast cancer. I had just started my PhD when I found the lump, and I changed my dissertation topic to what happens when social workers have a serious physical illness and how it changes your use of self and your sense of self. And I really believe that every time we have a person with MBC has a progression or finds out new information about their body, it changes how we feel about ourselves and our sense of self. And I just want you to think about that a little bit, but because I don't think it's just me who feels that way. I think we all feel that way if you think about it. That we're always having to accommodate new information about our bodies. And it changes a little bit how we think and feel about ourselves. And so every new every new phase, we have to accommodate a new view of ourselves. And that's kind of a bummer, a low. So the highs, on the other hand, have been exorbitant highs. Highs that I don't think I would have felt if I hadn't been sick. Every milestone in life that I've been able to see, like turning 70 this weekend, I bought what I would have to call a kick-ass dress. Came out and I think blew everybody away. And I would never have done that otherwise. For me, it's in family, career, and the depth of joy that I don't think I ever would have appreciated. And I don't know if my marriage would ever have been as rich or that I would have ever, it wouldn't have been as empathic. I think my 3 kids moved back to town. You know, they would have settled in Chicago or DC, but they came to town. My son Phil is here tonight just to be with me. He became a breast oncologist at Dana-Farber. I don't know what he would have been if he hadn't been 16 when I was that. You know, it's like fantastic changes in life that happened. And then, so in a lot of ways, it multiplied my good fortune. I have 8 grandchildren around me, and I'm getting to see things I never thought I'd see. So I don't know what I'll feel when my time comes, because I think we always wish we had more time, but I'm happy for the time I've had. Thank you.
No, you keep that. I don't know if I can go after her. That was wonderful. So for me, I think the low was finding out through Dr. Google that metastatic meant that I was always going to be in treatment. I saw incurable. And it was, I just was floored. I really did not understand how come I didn't have enough information prior to, because it took 10 years from my early stage diagnosis before I found, before I was diagnosed metastatic. And that was in 2014. Do the math. I've been here not as long as the sister right here, but I've been here for a while. And that was the start of the low, really, because I had to figure out what to do. And I went through a lot of, can you still hear me? Okay. I went through, excuse me, a whole lot of end of life planning. I only have 1 child, and it just pushed me through doing some things I should have done anyway. Everybody should do some end of life planning if you have children. So once that happened, the lowest of the low was when I did all those things that I thought I should do, and I pushed and pushed and pushed, and then I just got depressed, straight up, bad depression, like did not leave my room depression for a while. I can't tell you how long it was, but it was quite some time. Excuse me. And then after I went through that depression and I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't taking medication, I wasn't going to the oncologist, And the next thing that happened was progression. The good thing about the progression is it really made me have to think about what I was doing. What did I really want to do? And I chose life. I had that, I really did have that conversation with God. And it was like, okay, well, are you going to keep doing this? Or are you going to get up and figure out what it is that's going to happen next? And I had a wonderful oncologist that did not give me any kind of judgment. She just dealt with the situation, and because I trusted her, she recommended the thing that I'm presently on, which is Sabcs, because I had progression to my bone. And from that point on, I chose to live. So my highs are every day. Every day I wake up. Every day I wake up is a high, because I know that I have a reason for getting up, even if I don't get up. You know, sometimes you don't feel that good with metastatic breast cancer. But if my eyes are open, I know that there is something that I'm supposed to do that day. If it's to call somebody, if it's to text somebody, if it's to just exist, that's my high every day, waking up my eye, opening of my eye.
Thank you. Now, as a caregiver, can you tell us, like, how you dealt with the lows of watching your husband with, like, progression and, like, living with the disease? Can you tell us from a caregiver standpoint how that affects you, watching your loved one?
It's definitely very hard. When Bob first was diagnosed, he was 41 years old. He was permanently disabled, didn't work anymore because he had neuropathy and bone mets. And we'd been dating for 6 years, and he broke up with me because they told him he'd live 24 to 30 months. So he says, you have no future with me. So we broke up for 3 months. Then we got back together, ended up getting married in Hawaii. And we waited for the shoe to drop for those 24 to 30 months. And then it was 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, 17 years. But it was very hard because sort of that anticipatory grief, I grieved for so many years, losing so much a part of him and a part of us. And there were times I felt like, I said to myself, I knew I was in it for the long haul, but there were times I said, how long can I do this? Because 17 years is a long time. But I also did go get counseling once or twice because the counselors don't really understand what it's like to be in that situation as well. But it's important to seek out resources that you do need if you are a caregiver or a patient, because it is definitely, it's hard to be watching your loved one, your person or a loved one suffering so much, I guess is the best way to put it.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you for sharing that. Melinda, what would you say, like, your high or your low, like, for you, like, what has been some of the things that stand out for you?
So I was diagnosed as metastatic in 2019, September of 2019. And this is relevant, but it may not seem it right this second. My wife and I have adopted 4 children through the foster care system. It wasn't our intention. We just intended to be foster parents, but then they didn't leave. They just went and stayed. So we had 3 children. Okay. Very powerful. I don't think too many know. They're all. We had 3 children, 2 of whom were birth.
Can y'all hear her?
No, you can't. Was that me? Here. Have a mic. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Excellent. The first 3 children that we adopted, 2 of them, the 2 youngest, who came at age 2 and 4, were birth siblings. And so we were raising 3 children. And when that 2-year-old was 13, we got a call. We got the call. And it was from DCYF saying, turns out that Frankie and Jess's mom, she had another baby. And would you consider raising him with his siblings? What's noteworthy is I was 55 at the time. No one seemed to think that was an issue, except me. But I got over my bad self, and now I can't remember why I thought that was an issue. But I say that by way of saying that in 2019, I literally brought my beautiful little 5-year-old to kindergarten and dropped him off, kissed him goodbye, and what they could do about the intercostal rib pain that I was having. Like, I finally said, I need PT. And they said, sure, the heck of it, let's take a test X-ray. And it turned out that I was missing an entire rib. I was very far advanced in my bone mass and in my lungs. Within 48 hours, they had me in what they refer to as emergency radiation. So a low point was being diagnosed on my little guy's first day of kindergarten. It has been his truth in his life since kindergarten. And this is a family disease. Make no mistake, it is absolutely a family disease. We are all in this. And so that was a lot, for sure. Had I been diagnosed earlier, we never would have been allowed without me. So glad I didn't go in, quite frankly, because I can't imagine my life without it. That was definitely a problem. I was working for a national consulting firm doing national consulting on child welfare and improving systems in states. And I loved what I did, was passionate about what I did, and I couldn't do it anymore. And that was another real blow. And at the end of my medical leave, I didn't know what I was going to do. I felt like maybe I had allowed my work to define me maybe too much, but it was extremely difficult. And so I called someone I had recently gotten to know through a support group, my dear and sweet friend, Abigail Johnson, one of you, like the first person I met out in the world with Mbca, and said, I'm not done yet. I got stuff, you know, I can do things. I haven't, I'm just not done, and I don't know what to do with it. And Abigail said, it turns out that there's this organization that's just started since March of 21. And it was, which I didn't go with, which brings me to my home. I got involved with Project Life as a member, and several things happened kind of all in a row. And one almost sounds like singing, but it's not. I went from being somebody who is dying from metastatic breast cancer to somebody who is living with metastatic breast cancer. And that is the quality of that. And I would show up appropriately, and I did everything. Like, I signed up for it because I just wanted to know more. And I would walk away from these things going, I just got exactly what I did not know I needed. And that, as somebody who thinks I'm pretty clear about what I can use, was a little bit humbling. So I kept going, finding out what else I didn't know I needed. And then I found my reason and my ultimate high, which was healing circles and being able to work through Project Life, like Project Outreach, to really try and embrace and engage the LGBTQ community. And those have been highs. And the people that I've met, and our dear friend Leslie says all the time, I'm just going to say it the way she does. This is the shittiest club with the absolute best members. And the people that I have met have been extraordinary. So that's me.
Thank you for sharing that. So as you can see, we're missing 2 panel members, and if you live with MBC, it's a choice, and we have to make hard decisions. Sometimes it's staying home and taking care of our families or taking care of ourselves. Life interrupts. But I just want to share from our youngest panel member, Jill. She sent in some notes, and Jill, it was a primary care physician at the time of her diagnosis, and she found her metastatic breast cancer at the age of 36, while she was breastfeeding her first baby and having her second. She was still working. She had to make the choice not to work. But what Jill wants everyone to know is it's very present and a very part of the family life, which everybody up here has alluded to. And she wants you to know that, like, her focus is how to help her children and her husband with dealing with the trauma, the grief, the anger that comes with all the messiness and the disruptions of the daily living. And that what we're all trying to do is to live in the present moment, trying to live like where we can have the most normal kind of life, try to keep a schedule for our families if it's possible, and try to just navigate this disease as it changed daily. She wants me to encourage each of you, if you don't, to learn to live in the moment, focus on the memory that you're making at the time, and just enjoy it and try not to constantly think about living with metastatic cancer. She also feels that for quality of life, it's about the whole human experience and what is important to each person that's living with a disease. It could be the caregiver and them watching their spouse or their mate, their mother, their child change. So just remember to give yourself grace and to extend that same grace if you're living with somebody with MBC. So I want to ask, when you were diagnosed, some of us have lived with the disease for a while, and some of us are newly diagnosed. What is important to you right now in this moment, living with metastatic breast cancer? What do you think the most important thing for you right now is?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I love about this meeting is that you're here and that you have decided to join in the metastatic fight. And whatever it is that you do, whatever organization that you're a part of, what people who have metastatic breast cancer need is support. Regardless of what our individual needs might be, we need support. And this is what you're doing. I'm going to piggyback on everything that has already been said, but it's so important that you have decided to, for whatever reason, to have the organizations that you have and to provide people with metastatic disease some kind of way that they can navigate these very, very potentially dark waters. So for me, what it is that is super important right now is to be able to come to these type of events. Thank you, Metastatic Breast Cancer Alliance, for providing the opportunity for me to be here. And doing so gives me a voice. It makes me feel seen. It makes me feel heard. It makes me feel appreciated. It makes me feel more than just this disease that I have to contend with. So I want to say, before we get to the end of this, I just want to say thank you for all of you who are part of the Alliance because of the support that you provide for people with breast cancer, with metastatic breast cancer.
Go ahead, Nancy.
For me, it is really important to still find and carve out cancer-free days. That means times between treatments and that are just cancer unrelated. And even if I have to be in town for a period of time between treatments, I want cancer-free days, times when nobody talks to me about my symptoms or asks me about how I'm doing, where I can go to my dance classes, do my activities, read books, play with my friends, and I'm outside of cancer. I have a life outside of metastatic breast cancer. I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. I have other things on my plate. I have other organizations that I'm active in. That's another part of my life that I want to keep involved with. And I feel like sometimes metastatic breast cancer encroaches too much on my life.
Yes, I would really, can you hear me?
Our mics aren't working.
They are? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Yes. Because I can talk really loud, just ask my kids.
Remember, she's powerful.
I'm sorry.
You're powerful.
I would really echo what you said. Metastatic breast cancer for me takes up way too much headspace. And, job one for me right now is figuring out how to put it in its place. We have to think about it. We have to do things. This is part of our life that we have to take care of. But it is not our whole life. I am not metastatic breast cancer. And I think that that's important. And it's important, I think the one other piece that I would say is that the integrative oncology, all of those kinds of services and supports that are outside of medical oncology that kind of keep us going and help improve our quality of life are really essential. And we need more of that.
So just a quick yes or no, I want to go down the panel and ask. Do you feel like your medical team fully understands the challenges of living with MBC?
No.
Do you think when you were going to appointments, do you think your team did?
I think as oncologist, 100% did.
Okay, Sheila?
Well, because I'm really in maintenance right now, I can't answer that as honestly as I'd like to, because I don't really know. When I was in my early stages of dealing with metastatic, I was in Philadelphia and my oncologist was a little more hands-on because I had progression and everything. So we had to work things out. When I came to Virginia, that's where I live presently, it was more about going back over what was already done and just continuing on with what's already done. So, I mean, she's added a few things to it. So I would say pretty much yes. But where I am is, and this is just Sheila, I have decided that I'm just going to be the person who leads this team. I tell my oncologist pretty much what it is that I need and I don't need. And that's, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But that's an important part about, I didn't expect to say this, but that's an important part about knowing what it's like to live with metastatic breast cancer. Yes, you're absolutely right. We should not have to have it always the same. That's the thing. We have to have a life outside of MBC. But it's up to us to make that happen, right? So yes, I definitely would think that the team that I have understands, but I make my own decisions, so I make them understand. By living my life, by doing what I do, I don't do a whole lot. This is really exciting for me. My biggest excitement most of the time is just walking by myself somewhere on a beach. So, but my point is, it's so important to just breathe sometimes. Just live. We can't always worry about scans. We can't always worry about when the next shoe's going to drop. We can't always worry about what's going to happen with the children, with the husband, with all that. We have to figure out a way to give ourselves space where we don't think about being metastatic. Me and my sister, we had a day where she was able to understand when I told her, I actually forgot that I had MBC.
That's awesome.
It was
That's amazing. Nancy, do you feel like your team understands?
I do.
Okay.
I really do.
So I want to move into like nonprofits and places where you get resources. Melinda, you alluded to like the integrative oncology, and as an advocate and as an MBC patient, I do use a lot of integrative stuff. Also, like Sheila, I do go back to my team, take information, tell them how I'm going to take my medicine, not take my medicine, scientific research, because I want to be the center of decisions. And I hope if you're living with MBC, you are the center of all your decisions too, because ultimately you are the final decision of how your treatment goes. So I want to ask if you could just tell me one or two resources that you have used from a nonprofit so we can move along and then take it out to the audience and let them ask some questions. So can you tell me some resources that you have used from nonprofits?
Sure. I've already talked about Project Life, which is modeled on integrative oncology. And there are many services and supports that it provides. And I have taken advantage of a program that I think sadly might be just local to my little corner of New Hampshire, but it's called Hands and Hearts, and it is free to me, and it's every 3 weeks in-home massage therapy.
Okay, I'm moving in. I'm on my way.
There you go. Yeah, you're welcome.
Linda, have you used any nonprofits?
We didn't really, because he was diagnosed in 2003, quite a while ago. But I did want to say one thing is, as an organization, Bob lived 9 years not ever meeting another male with breast cancer. So there was an organization. We went to New York City, and he was able to meet 9 other men. And now, I think Sherry's here, but it's turned into the Male Breast Cancer.
The Male Breast Cancer Alliance. And Bob Ritter and Ash is here in our audience, and they want you to know if you're a male living with, or if you know somebody, they're here. They're going to be at the conference all week. And you want to, Ash, can you stand up?
I know.
So she's over there. So Ash is a male living with breast cancer, and if you have questions about that, there is the Male Breast Cancer Alliance booth over in the hall, and please stop by, see them. They're willing to answer any questions for you.
I just wanted to finish by saying it was so important for him. Could you imagine you being diagnosed and never meeting another person, so it was important for him when he finally did meet 9 men in New York City. So
yeah, Bob shared today with me, he couldn't be here, he had another engagement, that when he was diagnosed over 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet. And he's like, it wasn't like you were going to go through the phone book and find people. But he said they're really looking forward. The men want to share with other men and embrace that community. So they want them to know that there are resources there. Sheila?
Yes, I was thinking, and there were quite a few, but I will point out just a couple, maybe 3.
Okay.
Unite for Her, I was able to receive a wonderful care package, and also they provide you with opportunities to do a lot of integrative care. And they actually extended their services to metastatic people to forever. I was very impressed with that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really utilize them as much as I would have liked to, but the program has been phenomenal. Then there was a local, when I was in Philadelphia, there was a local, I believe it was a nonprofit, and it was called Praise is the Cure. And they set up a week of various activity, but the touchstone of their whole organization was to have a pamper day for survivors, early, late stage, it didn't matter. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful event. We were given all types of food, all types of activities, we line danced, we got got our nails done, our hair done, all these different things in one day, and it was all free. It was beautiful. And a lot of information was given out too. Unfortunately, the founders of that organization both passed away from metastatic breast cancer. Yeah. And the other one, I guess I would pick, I guess I would say, oh, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick. So I'll just stay with those two. I'll just stay with those two. But there have been a lot of nonprofits, especially because I decided to become active in this space. So there's a lot of wonderful organizations that I definitely have. Oh, I know, I have to say it. The Cancer Support Community of Greater Philadelphia. They were the very first one. Oh, someone knows. Okay. They were the very first organization that I reached out to when I got diagnosed metastatic, because I had no idea what it was going to look like. And their programming is for all cancers, but it was very, very important for me to find.
Understand how to navigate it. They gave me a lot. Maybe. So I really haven't used any nonprofit organizations. I'm a, as a social worker, and I'm very independent and used to taking care of other people and making referrals to organizations. I just never did. But I did use a palliative care nurse and found that really helpful and life-changing for me. So I would count that. That counts.
Can I add one
Yeah.
real quick?
Okay.
The Metastatic Breast Cancer Network, Shirley Mertz, I reached out to other organizations, and they, because my husband was a male, they weren't interested. I won't name them, but when I reached out to Shirley Mertz, she was the first organization that welcomed Bob with open arms. And so I just wanted to say that because
That's awesome. So I just want to share real quick. Jill shared a couple for people that are young living with kids. She said the Bright Spot Network, Camp Kesem, and then the Pickles Group are good places for people with young children. I can tell you myself, 4 weeks after my diagnosis, I work in healthcare, but I was a walking zombie. 4 weeks after my diagnosis, I walked into Living Beyond Breast Cancer's metastatic conference. I cried for 4 days, but it was the best place for me because it gave me my landing spot and helped me create connections. And then we went into lockdown about 6 months later, and I used the resources of Surviving Breast Cancer. They do a lot of online Zoom programs, writing, art, some support groups. So those were spaces where I use. There's tons of organizations. I run a breast center where I live. I pass out as much information as I can to patients because not each organization fits everybody's mold. So you have to find what works for you. So I want to encourage you, if you're not using resources, reach out, create a network of people, and find the spaces that work for you. If you're a nonprofit, I encourage you, don't reinvent the wheel. If you're doing something and somebody else does it, partner with them. Make it easier on us as a patient to be able to use combined resources. That's super important for us. We just want a safe space to land, to be vulnerable, to share our experience, and to create a community. And it takes all of us to do that. So we've shared about quality of life, and I forgot because I got up here and I was a little nervous, I have to be honest. If you know me, you know I like to talk, but not in front of a lot of people. I was supposed to tell you if you had questions, you have cards on your table. You can write those questions down. If you have questions and you don't feel like you're comfortable standing at the microphone and asking them, please reach out to the Alliance afterwards. We want to answer any questions. We want to make sure that you have the resources. We want to make sure that we are representing everybody that's living with metastatic breast cancer. We want to be representing the caregivers, the family members. So at this time, if you have questions and you want to step up to the mic and ask questions, or if you want to stand up where you are and ask a question, we encourage you to let us answer any questions you have. No questions? We're good.
Good one, sure. Who does?
So Amy, I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the metastatic lobular breast cancer support groups that are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we want to advertise.
Yeah, okay. So, if you're not familiar, lobular breast cancer is about 10% of patients. But for us, we're often not included in clinical trials, and it's hard to find other lobular patients. So, the LBCA, which is the Lobular Breast Cancer Alliance, has support groups for metastatic patients. And starting in January, they will be also right now they partner with Share, and they have 2 support groups. So there are support groups out there for your subtypes. There's support groups out there for different ways that you're living, as Melinda said about the healing circle. But in January, the LBCA will partner with MetaViver 2 to bring a lobular metastatic support group. So we're wanting to add different time zones. If you're missing that or you're caring for someone that's missing, we have that. Project Life has a mentorship program that's designed strictly to match you with somebody with the same subtype of cancer and somebody with your same lived experience. They also have mentors that are for caregivers. They have mentors that are for parents. So there are places and spaces for everybody there. So please know that if you don't feel like you're connected, there are support groups. You can do it from your home, in your jammies, on camera, not on camera, riding in your car, however. But we just encourage you to get connected if you're not. Sheila?
Hi, Sheila Gaudreau, individual member. I wanted to know if there's one thing that you would do differently looking back and when you were first diagnosed, based on all that you've learned throughout the years. What's the one thing that you would have done differently?
I can tell you easily, don't go on Google. Do not do it. The statistics are all wrong and incorrect. So no, don't go on Google.
And I would add, take meticulous notes, be a note taker. That's what I wish I had been. I didn't know I was going to do it for 17 years, but I would be a much better note taker, I think.
Nancy?
That's a really hard one for me. I would have really slowed down. There was such a big rush when I was diagnosed to everybody I saw was very reactive. It was 2 days before I had a biopsy from the time I felt the lump. It was a week later that I had a mastectomy. Within a week, days later, I saw the oncologist. I had 3 opinions within a week, and everything happened way too fast for me. So I started chemo. I still had a supraclavicular lump, and I should never have done that. I should have slowed down and had that lump removed, because that was the lump that turned out to be metastatic 10 years later. And that's a major regret for me. So I would say, slow everything down. Think carefully. Take as many opinions as you need, but don't get rushed through any process. And I would advise anybody that.
I agree.
I think for me, I work in imaging, and it's very hard to even admit this, but I'm lobular, and I found my cancer, and it was almost through the skin by the time I was diagnosed, and I was diagnosed early stage with both breasts. But I think for me, I share my story when I feel led to share it in spaces, and when I don't feel like I can share it in a safe space, I don't. but I'm learning to live because I was identified by my work. I still work. I'm still able to work, but I think I probably work too much because that's where my head stays clear because I don't have to think. So for me, it's probably learning to live in the moment and do a little bit more memory making and giving time. People want your time and I want other people's time. And that's been the advice given to me often over the years. So that for me, that's what I would do. I'd probably try to live a little more in the moment. Melinda, you got anything to add? Okay. Okay. Mel?
This is a question for the caregiver. My name is Melanie Sisk, and I've been living with metastatic breast cancer for 5 years. So I feel like it's been me, and my disease. And so how can I best support my spouse? Because I know he is suffering through this probably just as much as I am. It's just I'm dealing with the disease and the side effects of treatment. But how can I support him as he supported me?
One of the things my husband was very good at for me was giving me time, like he encouraged me to become an advocate for male breast cancer and metastatic breast cancer. So I started going to conferences and things. The other thing is he encouraged me to travel. Like we were both going to go to Cuba for my 60th birthday, and then we decided we weren't going to go because of his medical needs and things. And then he said, I want you to still go. So I was able to go, and I did do a few trips, and I had friends that would watch him or my daughter, and so I guess I give him some time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know him personally, but because it consumed me. I'm OCD, and so I went to every appointment, every treatment, every scan, and so but that's my personality, and so I just think give him time. But also I found it was important. Bob and I had a lot of serious conversations that we never would have had if he hadn't been diagnosed with metastatic. So I would say communicate and talk about it. It's more important too.
And Melinda wants to add something.
Yeah, Melanie, I have always felt like this has been more difficult for Allison than it is for me. I have no choice but to surrender and do what I need to do. She has all the questions and all the worries and is picking up all the slack. And every time I say, I know that this is harder for you than it is for me, she's like, that's just ridiculous. But I know it's true. It takes so much out of caregivers. And I would really echo, Linda, what you're saying. I really try and get her out of the house, go do something. And, visit friends and visit family and go to that basketball game that you want to go to. And nurture friendships, because that's something I couldn't nurture my friendships. And we lost many friends, couple friends, then friends. Try to have them nurture friendships and support, because that's important. After Bob died, I had to build new friendships, and that's hard at my age. So
Great question. Thank you.
So I want to go to Sheila real quick, because you don't have a caregiver living in this space. So for you, as we're talking about trying to meet the needs of the caregiver, where do you get your support from in the hard times? I know you say you live stable, but you had to be diagnosed at some point and you needed support. So where did you go to for that support? How did you navigate that?
Well, that brings me back to why I mentioned the cancer support community. I started off in Philadelphia. My daughter did not live with me in Philadelphia. She was always living where I presently live now. I am fortunate that I did have family members, but of course, people don't understand metastatic. They just don't. So that's why I reached out. I pursued finding resources that would give me some kind of understanding of what it was that I was going through. And doing it by myself was challenging. But having the support that I got from the cancer support community was invaluable. And it gave me a sense of myself. It gave me a sense of purpose. And I really decided that I was going to be the person that set the tone. So where I am now, living alone, I live in senior housing, so there is somewhat of a support system set up there. I live close to my daughter. My daughter's a nurse. However, there are certain decisions that I just decided to make for myself. And when I get, if I ever, prayerfully I will not, if I ever get to a point where I'm debilitated, I'll deal with it then. I have certain decisions that I rather not say about that in this forum. However, I've already thought about it. I've already talked to my family about it. And that's why I seek out these resources. That's why I said thank you to the members of the Alliance, because these types of organizations are integral to a person who lives alone like myself. Project Life is something that gives people who are single some types of resources and helps. So thank you for that question.
Thank you for sharing. Ricky?
Sheila sort of answered my question, but we spend so much time and energy building resources for patients. And we try to do all the right things and think of all the things people are going to encounter and provide things for them. But I always wonder how people find us. And I think, Sheila, you said you look for it, but I mean, do you go to Google? And you said Google's not a good place to go. But I mean, how do you find them? We do the best that we can to put ourselves on social media, to be, ever present. But I always wonder if people who need us can find us when they need us.
Well, I can kind of answer that somewhat. Yes, it is sometimes important to go to Google, and in a case like that, to find the different resources when you first get diagnosed with metastatic, as long as you're not looking for those stats that tell you an endpoint. No, those are out of date. But in order to find the organizations, if you have a social media presence, you can be found. If people are looking, I think the issue is advocacy, and as far as patient advocates, we have to share the information with other people. And that's what I try to do.
I think that's important. And I also think it's important to share with your physicians and making sure that the physicians have the resources and that they can share those with patients as well.
But Amy, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
For the room. What do you think of, I'm sorry, Meta, I wanted to ask this before everybody, I wanted to ask after everyone had a chance.
Thank you so much. All of you, really excellent discussion. So I do have a question. We had a great conversation earlier today with Alamo and the ABC Global Alliance and AACR on demystifying and facilitating communication around clinical trials. So if I could kindly, if you're willing to share, could you spend a minute talking about any of you or Linda, your husband's participation in a clinical trial? And if not, what were the barriers? We have the right people here today in the audience. We really didn't have that earlier today. There were a lot of conflicting sessions, but we want to continue that conversation because it's so important. Quality of life, positively or negatively, is impacted by participation in a clinical trial. And we heard that today. It's not always positive, right? I'm not saying this is like a golden nugget, but yeah, if any of you are willing to share of your experience on clinical trials and barriers, or what you would advise someone living with metastatic breast cancer. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to talk about clinical trials. I mean, I think clinical trials are so essential for advancing knowledge and also for access to great new medications. There's a great upside to them, but for quality of life, it is a challenge. There's no question that there are more appointments, there is more surveillance, there in terms of scanning or other kinds of surveillance. You may need to change your medications in order to go on a trial. You may need There may be different side effects that you're not anticipating. There are all kinds of sequelae of going on a clinical trial. And some of them may be known to you and some may not. So in my experience with clinical trials, I have ended up with some lasting issues that I didn't anticipate. I went on a clinical trial once and there were ocular, I signed on and it said, you have to be seen by an eye doctor. I didn't think much of it. I said, fine, I'll go across the street to the Jocelyn and I'll see an eye doctor. But it turned out that I ended up with lasting swelling behind my eye. And I had no way of knowing that from reading the consent form. So you have to be very careful, I think, when you go on a clinical trial to really read deeply into the consent form, to ask a lot of questions. That's my experience.
Well, I don't have any experience with a clinical trial, but the session that Maida is talking about was excellent. And Abigail talked a lot about the informed consent, how important it is to read all the parameters. My issue is I would like to be a part of clinical trials, not necessarily the medical ones. There's all types, but it has been a bit of a problem finding a match. That's my issue, finding a match. And I had to talk to my oncologist. It did not come from the oncologist. I was the one who had to bring it up in my three oncologists in my life.
And I just wanted to add, unfortunately, because Bob was a male, he was excluded from most clinical trials. When they finally started including men, he was excluded because of previous treatments. But clinical trials are so important, but the quality of life with those, because he lived so much longer because of the clinical trials and the drugs, but the quality of life issues that come with it were a big problem for me, so personally.
Excuse me. I've never been on a clinical trial. I realized in listening to the session today that my oncologist has no way of knowing that I would absolutely be open to that. Neither does my second opinion doctor at Dana-Farber. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question?
I do. Amy, you asked earlier all of our panelists about if they felt that their providers, if your providers understood what you were going through. And we also talked about many of the supportive services you feel are essential. And I'm curious if any of you have found any of these services or nonprofits or useful resources through conversations with your provider. I know I've heard a lot of self-advocates, bringing topics and treatments and all of your knowledge to your physicians to start those conversations. So I'm wondering if those resources are passed to you through your provider as well for quality of life issues.
I'll say at my original oncology center, they had flyers hanging, and my original breast surgeon gave me resources. There was a packet given to me, but I wasn't navigated because I was diagnosed early stage before there was navigation. And then once you get diagnosed metastatic, they often don't navigate you. So I think that's something we have to bridge that gap and work on it. And I think that needs to come from the level of when you go to the breast center and you're having resources, that staff needs to be educated as well as your oncologist. Go ahead, Melinda.
I was the only one up here who said that I did not necessarily think that what was the question?
That they
understand
NBC.
that they understood NBC. And what I didn't get to say is that's because she's made it very clear. I've never had cancer. NBC is complicated. I learn as much from you as you learn from me. So it wasn't an insult. She's said, there's a learning curve with MBC. That being said, and I know I've mentioned Project Life a couple of times. I've also talked with her about it. I've left cards with her. And when we've talked about, when I had progression and then we had to talk about some new treatments, she said, without any prompting from me, here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what we're talking about. Here's the information. I hope that you'll go back to the people that you trust at Project Life who've been through this and to help you decide what you want to do next. And that was very respectful. So I take it back. Like she gets what she doesn't know. And has in turn, just a few weeks ago said to me, can you send me some more postcards? Because I have some patients that need to know your people, like, the people you have on speed dial, because I come back with questions that I say to her, these actually aren't for me. I asked a handful of people, what would you want to know from my oncologist, and bring them. So I take it all back. Yeah.
Sheila, you got anything?
No, not really.
I just want to tell you that my oncologist makes me be the last patient of the day. And she says to me, no matter what she tells me, she knows I'm going to run it by my team of what she calls my experts, and that I'm not going to do it if they don't agree with the decision. So she often puts me at the end of the day, but she'll also ask me about resources for her other patients. So she does try, and she asks me to bring her resources. So I try to do it. And she does make an effort, and she does go to get educated, but she knows if we're going to discuss something, I need it sent to me so I can look at it ahead of time. So I think it's about setting those communications up, but we have to educate them too on the needs as well, because they don't live with the disease, I think. Go ahead. You have a question?
Okay, and it's not a question. My name is Pam. I'm with Tercera. I'm an industry partner, but first and foremost, I'm a nurse. And so my comment is, wow, this session was amazing. And I have to thank each and every one of you. When I sit here and I listen to your story, it gives me what I need to take back to get the funding that we need to provide, to MBC Alliance. And it's so important. So I have to thank each and every one of you for sharing your voice.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we wrap up real quick, I want to ask you, we shared with you tonight, and we want you at your table. If you could discuss amongst your table and then have somebody stand up and tell us what is an actionable takeaway. You have 2 minutes. If you could just discuss real quick, what is an actionable takeaway? And while you're discussing it, I'm just going to go down and ask the panel like what their actionable takeaway is, but please talk amongst yourself in 2 minutes and tell us what you think an actionable takeaway is.
Well, start down there.
Do you?
I don't, I don't have an actionable takeaway per se, but I did have a question for the room. You never had a question for the room.
Wait, when they're done, I'll let you
Yeah,
ask your
okay. But do you? Do you?
Not really. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
How long have you been? Let me turn this off.
Maybe that's how I'll wrap it up too.
What your genes are, so where you saw it might not be where you go. So whatever we learn to live with on. This was like a good. When you're, I don't realize. Representing our town with hard review, but people as a region see that our kids is invested in be and the school. Well, they want to talk to
Okay, 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 okay. Okay. Okay, real quick. Can you turn me back on? Hello, hello, hello.
Nancy, can I have your mic? Turn it on.
Hello, can we bring y'all's attention back for just a second? Sheila has, sorry, I don't even need this. Sheila has a question for the room. So before we continue, I just want to thank y'all real quick. We'll let Sheila ask her question. We want to thank you for spending the time listening to our stories that represent everybody else's stories. And we want to remind you that it takes the scientists, it takes the physicians, it takes the nurses, it takes the caregivers, it takes the patients, it takes pharma, it takes the nonprofits, it takes the care, like everybody. So it's a community effort. And so as we were sitting here talking, one of our takeaways is you have to find your community and what works for you. It might change over time living with the disease. And we just encourage you, like if you start one place and you move to a different place, just embrace that relationships change as the disease progresses. So Sheila, I'll let you ask your question and then we'll go to the QR code.
Thank you so much. Oh. All right, so I want to have everyone think about the mental health aspect of metastatic breast cancer. We're talking about quality of life. And this is a very, very challenging diagnosis. And as you are industry leaders and nonprofits and resources for people with metastatic breast cancer, please consider that mental health part. We deal with scan anxiety. We deal with having to figure out how to present ourselves to our family. As I said earlier, we set the tone. But sometimes our tone is one of mental anguish. And it's so important. I didn't know if I was actually going to share this, but I will share this with the room. I feel that this is something important too. I dealt with mental anguish prior to getting diagnosed with breast cancer, the first time. And I had to make a decision. I was bipolar. Was is the important word there too. I was, but in my early stage diagnosis, I had to figure out what to do. Didn't have any insurance. This is a whole nother story. We don't have time for that. But what I definitely want the room to think about is what aspect of, what can you do in your, whatever it is that you do, that you pay attention to the mental
the stress that this diagnosis can cause. What happened for me is that it made me go to do everything I had to do, but it's very difficult to get therapy now, especially depending on the healthcare that you have. So that's a resource I hope you think about making sure is available to the people who are metastatic.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we're going to ask you to use the QR codes and just do the Slido from your table and just share. Oh, you did share. So I'm just going to read them. Ask a variety of MBC patients what they need early and often before developing programs. We definitely want to be there as you start programs and have a voice. Work together and don't duplicate. Absolutely. We need to do better to cross-promote organizations. Oops, it went away.
We'll collate it.
We'll collate everything. And just so you know, from tonight's discussion, we will do a debrief and then we will also take the survey results and collaborate, and those will be published through the Alliance. Again, we thank you for your participation and thank you for being here with us tonight.
I'm gonna give you a hug. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
We're done.
Amy and everyone. We'll go to closing remarks. I think, get to that slide, please. I'll let them take your time. Careful. So,
Nancy.
okay. Several of us had to step away during Margaret's remarks. I think a lot of us knew Shirley. There are several people in this room that were present in 2013 when the Alliance was founded with Shirley. So that was tough, but I love what Aaron, her son, said. He stated her name. Needed to be shared tonight. When we lose her, Maren, Julia, when we lose people that we can learn from. So I wanted to very quickly wrap up. I need 2 minutes. Looking around, this to me is kind of the who's who of the U.S. nonprofit industry and outstanding patient advocate landscape. What we have in this room is unequaled. I've known it for 15 years. And I shared my story several years ago of the first Alliance meeting I attended when I was on staff with Force. And it's never left me. All of the organizations that were mentioned by our amazing panelists tonight are members of the Alliance. And I can assure you that the leadership of the Alliance recognizes that there's a disconnect between what is out there and how patients are accessing that information. And that is a priority moving forward into 2026. Lots of work to do, but I just want to state that. So thank you all for taking time this week. Thank you for sharing, for your honesty. I saw the updates and the connections that were being made, and that reminds me why the Alliance is here today. And that's the recognition of the work that Shirley and the patient advocates and the industry partners started in 2013. And you can read all about that on the Alliance blog if you want to learn more about the history and who was involved. So to our panelists, Amy, Sheila, Nancy, Jill, Melinda, Kirby, Linda, thank you for grounding us in what matters most, the lived experience of those diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer and those impacted by metastatic breast cancer. To our tonight's member meeting committee, we started meeting in the summer. Amy Russell Parliament, Jill Tirabassi, Nancy Purview, Abigail Johnson, Stephanie Walker, Sheila Gaudreau. There were a few others that were sprinkled in there. If I didn't mention you, that work is valued. We spent hours trying to figure out what we needed to talk about tonight. So I really, really appreciate your time. And thank you for making the Alliance's core values front and center. You saw that slide. It's not just lip service. That slide matters when you're an Alliance member. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you to our industry partners. I know how incredibly busy you are this week, and you come here every year. I'm not going to read the names. You know, they're all listed here. We are allies in this together. We could not be here tonight without your support, your time, and partnership. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know who you are. All of us know who you are. Yes. So grateful. So as we look ahead, next slide, please. As we look ahead, I'm very excited. We've already kind of teased this, but we have confirmed we will be meeting again in person in September in Atlanta at the what we're calling the Member Summit. We might change the name again. Never know. Might be like I was meeting with someone and they said, call it a hackathon. Like, call it something like we want to make this is a working meeting. It's a working meeting. There's education, there's connections. We're going to meet in Atlanta near Emory. It's a beautiful conference hotel and center. There details coming to you all. We will do everything. The Alliance is committed to supporting individual member and nonprofit member participation with expense reimbursement. All of that will come your way. Thankful to our industry partners for that support. So more details coming. And if you cannot attend in September, do not worry. You will be recruited. We're starting work streams spring and summer. You will have a chance to contribute your voice, your perspective. The goal here is to formulate a multi-year, a short multi-year. We're not talking 5, 10 years. We're talking 1, 2, 3 years. Actionable strategic roadmap of where we need to focus our time and collective resources. So, and maybe some other fun stuff too. There might be some fun. Okay, so I have a couple other thank yous to do. I have a team. Nothing happens in a vacuum. We're small but mighty. Jenna Haddad, who's been sitting there. Lori Crenny. She's around. She's, yeah. And Stephanie Walker. The planning committee I've already recognized. So teamwork makes the dream work. That's all I'll say. Here we are. And there's one last thank you. And it's kind of the hardest. So if I could go to the next slide, please. I love it. Oh my God. I'd like you all to please join me in thanking our outgoing chair, Margaret Flowers. Margaret, you're kind of one in a million. You're, is that good or bad? I don't know. You bring the research expertise, your steady leadership, your compassion for people affected by breast cancer. Through your work with Alliance, not only in, she literally has like a full-time job at the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Like, you cannot even imagine the countless hours that Margaret has dedicated in the last 9 years to the Alliance. So you've been an ally, a friend to all of us here. We are so grateful for your time, the countless hours, and improving the lives of people living with metastatic breast cancer. So please join me. Cheers to you, Margaret. Please join me. I think I teared her up a little bit. Okay. And then last slide. So now it's time for something we instituted about a year or two ago. And Katrina, I take my cue from you. She's the ultimate photo. You know, what I heard is if the pick doesn't happen, it never happened. So we're going to do, I would love to do, if you can stay for a minute, a group pick with all of us here on the stage. I'd love a group pick. And then this year, I would love to do our
individual members, a group pick, our nonprofit members, and then our industry partners as well. If you can kind of hang for 1 minute, we